So hello everyone and welcome to this AADA webinar on AI. So AADA stands for the African Actuarial Development Academy, and we exist to catalyze the development of the actuarial profession in Africa. We do so across multiple pillars, including professional development, educational development, tutorials for exams, and mentorship. So just before I turn to introduce our topic and speaker, I do have some housekeeping items. So this is intended to be a highly interactive webinar. Please feel free to use the chat, as some of you have already done, for discussions and comments, and use gestures to appreciate the discussion. The best place to put your questions is in the Q&A. So use the Q&A function within Zoom for your questions. We will try to monitor the chat as well, but if you don't want your question to be lost, use the Q&A. So our topic today is AI Essentials from Generative to Agentic with our speaker, Joseph Kablan. So Joseph Kablan is an associate of the Casualty Actuarial Society, who is the head of statistics, research, and business development at African Re, where he oversees strategic analytical initiatives for the continent's leading reinsurance provider. So before moving to Lagos, where he's based, Joseph held quite a few pricing actuarial roles in the US. He is a passionate AI enthusiast and currently is enrolled in the Digital Transformation with Artificial Intelligence program at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, also known very widely as MIT. So with this, he's deepening his understanding of how emerging AI technologies are reshaping business and the actuarial profession. He's also an active member of the CAS AI Working Group, where he contributes to industry-wide conversations on the responsible adoption of AI in actuarial practice. So with that, I will hand over to Joseph to take us through.
Okay. Thank you very much, Yvonne, for this presentation. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining this webinar from. And also, thank you very much to AADA for having me today. And today, as Yvonne mentioned, the topic is AI Essentials from Generative to Agentic AI. I hope you are as excited as I am today for this topic. It's very topical. So we will start and we see where it takes us. Yvonne mentioned my name is Joseph Kablan. And before we start here, I have a few rules of engagement. First of all, I'm nowhere to be an AI expert. I'm an actuary, but I like to use the AI to get my work done easily. And as Yvonne mentioned, I enjoy talking about AI, and I wish today we'll be able to engage, you and I, so that we can learn from each other. I'm excited. AI, everything about AI is changing rapidly. So be knowledgeable, think about it. Whatever we talk about here about AI, maybe 1 month or 2 months in the future might not be as relevant anymore. So it's up to you to actually get that learning going and learn about the tool. But it's here, it's not going anywhere. And finally, we have about 90 minutes. This is a long time to be talking about myself. So I hope that you will ask many questions so we can interact very much. And if you think for a second that you are late into that game of AI, think again. And if you see the square that are in the chart here, this is the entire world population. And a little over 84% of the population in the world have never used AI before. So if you have never used AI before, after today, at least you will be within that green zone. Give me a second here. Okay, back. So if after today, at least you'll be within that green zone. And the yellow zone represent the people that pay at least $20 a month to use a chat box. And the two red dots are what people call the super users. And the two that became two as of February 2026. In 2025, it was only one dot. So we are all new in this game of AI, and we hope that it will help us do the work that we need to do. And today, I will start this presentation with the end of this discussion. If anything goes wrong today, this is what I want you to remember. I'm here in Nigeria. The power can go off, the internet can go off. If anything goes wrong, this is the slide that I want you to remember. There is two kind of AI intelligence. One of them is generative AI that we talk about, and the other one is agentic AI. And the way I remember it is by looking at what I have here on the Brian graduate. The graduate has read so many books. He can explain stuff very, very well. However, he lacks real world grounding. He has no experience, and he needs deep supervision. On the other side, you have the experienced butler that he can run the house. He knows everything. You tell him to organize a party for 50 people, he'll be able to do that. But sometimes he needs some knowledge. And where he gets the knowledge from, he gets the knowledge from the recent graduate, which is here. The graduate is the LLM or the generative AI, and the butler is what we call the agent. Okay. And as I was talking about the graduate, you can ask any question to the graduate. He will be able to bring you some answers because he knows a lot. Usually we go to school, we graduate, and we go in the workforce. We start working. The concept that we learn in school start being thin and thin and thin, and we forget. The recent graduate will be able to remind you those concepts because they have freshly learned it. And there are new concepts that came after you graduate from school, right? And the recent graduate will be able to tell you exactly what those concepts are. So this is something, and this is what LLM can do for us today. The LLM has been trained with many, many books, many concepts, so it can provide us all the information that we need very fast. On the other side is the butler, which is the agent. It works with when you set up properly, it workflow. It can work 24/7. You can set it to work for you and wake up in the morning, have your result already. And for the two of them, we still need to check them because the graduate can give you some information with very high confidence, very high level of confidence, but that information can be wrong. And on the other side too, when you look at the agent, if there is any mistake in the instruction that you give the agent, guess what happened? The agent gets confused and start doing something else. So you need to be able to check the algorithm that you put in the agent and set good boundaries so the agent does exactly what you want the agent to do. So I hope you understand it. As we move along this presentation, I want you to every time kind of capture that image in your head so that it's easy for you to understand the concept that I'm talking about. So now let's start the presentation. And we will talk about LLM first. Sometimes I use LLM, sometimes I'm using generative AI. But Uh, Generative AI is the more generic term. Generative AI, or sometimes Gen AI, you can produce text, you can produce images, you can produce videos, you can produce, there's many things that can be produced. You can produce charts. But originally, when it was created, LLM was able to produce only text. So the model behind it is getting more and more advanced. And before we get too deep into the subject here, I want to say that uh, AI is not a new concept to the actuaries. We have been using that for so many years. If I don't know how long you have been in the industry for, but if you have been in the industry as long as I have, we used to have traditional machine learnings. And the machine learning here, you can predict a numerical outcome, but it requires tables. The data need to be well formatted, and it also provides probability. The same thing as LLM, by the way, and you'll find this one out. And the generative AI, though, it can produce language, spoken language, written language. It can handle many different form of document. You can put in a table, you can put in PDF file, you can put an audio song, and all those that will be handled by the LLM. And the LLM are able to give you a draft summary. It can explain it to you. You can use it for coding. I mentioned before, you can produce image, audios, and videos here. But let me tell you a little bit about the LLM. When I say that it's not new to the actuaries, it's like a continuous evolution of what we have been using so far. GLM, which is known as generative linear model, we use in pricing and reserving. And after that, we move into the trees and the assemble model for classification. The tree models were used to break either customer into group so they can apply the same price to them, or you can also break losses into segments so that you can apply the same reserving methodology to the loss group. And then we move into deep learning. Maybe some people know what I'm talking about here. Telematic. It's maybe not so much used in Africa, but a lot more in the developed countries with advanced rate-making techniques, like in the US. They use telematics to learn the driving habit of a driver. For someone that drives poorly, you could charge them a lot more because they are more prone to making losses. And someone that have a safe driving habit, you could charge them less. So telematic it's an engine that you put in the car to record the driving habit of the person. Or you could also use that for what? To see when and where the person is driving. Let's say that I'm here in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's say that someone drives maybe solely in the main island where maybe the traffic it's a lot better than other areas. If the person drives there, so that person is less likely to get into a car accident versus someone that drives in a crowded area, or if the person drives at night when the visibility is poor, so you need to charge those one more. And this is where we use deep learning. And behind deep learning, we have neural network. The neural network is the same thing that was used to do the LLM model. It's the exact same thing. But we'll discuss that a lot more. And if you have never touched AI before today, your first draw of entry to an LLM model will be a chat box. The chat box is kind of the user interface. and the model itself is behind the scene. And I will show you the way it looks like. I'm sure maybe since I don't know the audience, I don't know who knows what, and the audience is pretty diverse. So some of the people who have been using it, some of the people have not. But let me open um, um, a chat box to show you the way it looks like. So if you
Joseph,
have,
as you're opening that, we do have a question on the
sure.
chat. Well, there was one
Mhm.
about will you share the slides, and I've said we will ask you for them, so hopefully you'll be sharing them. But but I know a lot of your presentation is actually live, so the slides might not give that much information. But the question here is, I currently mainly use generative AI tools such as ChatGPT and Copilot. As I continue using them, I feel that responses become increasingly tailored to the history of our conversations. Sometimes I do not even need to provide much context anymore for the AI to generate the kind of answer I'm looking for. At that point, could that conversation be considered somewhat agentic?
Thank you. That's a great question. Yes. All those, if you remember the slide that I had before, all of them are competing against each other. So the longer they can captivate you to stay with the platform, the better it is for them. So as you engage in the conversation with your chatbots, the chatbot also records a few items with what they call memory. They record that so that when they can, let's say for me, for instance, they know I do a lot of research. So every time that I ask a question to the chat will give me the information and also add the source. Because every time they give me the information about source, I will ask ChatGPT or Claude to give me the source of that document so that it's not an hallucination. So yes, your chatbots learn your way. Even you can go in and ask your chatbots, what do you know about me? And the chatbot will tell you about from your memory, the memory that collected from you, and tell you who you are, the type of work that you do, the type of question that you do. You can even ask them about your writing style. They will tell you what type of writing style So, and again, the second part of your question, which is about is it an agent? Yes, that line between uh, uh, generative AI and agentic AI is getting closer and closer because those companies understand that not everyone will be able to use something like a LangChain, a programming to build an agent, but they want the person to have the benefit of being able to use and the tool. So even here, when I go here, if you can see, there is uh, I don't see, there's an agent mode here. I don't know if you can see. There's even an agent mode here in this is ChatGPT that I have open. There's an agent mode here that you can see. You could I use it one time to say I was going to Europe and I say find me how I can get from one point from the airport to my hotel and how much should I spend. The agent did pretty much everything and gave me deals that were happening during that season at the airport. And if I did not use ChatGPT, I would not have known it. I would have gone to the machine and purchased the regular ticket that was, I think, twice or three times as expensive as the discount ticket. So if you never use it, I think it's a good thing to use. It's an agent built behind it. And the mindset behind that is the fact that when you enter now a prompt, which is the information that you put inside the window for him to answer your question, they will break that into what they call chain of thought. So they'll break down into small pieces of prompt. They will solve the first one and bring it to LLM. And then, since the goal is not met, they will go again to the second level of the prompt and run all your prompt all the way to the end, and then the final result is what is the question that you ask. So this is that technology behind it's called chain of thought, and this is the thing that's making the chat box a lot more like an agent. So since we're talking about LLM, which is the engine behind it, I wanted to show you here, for instance, if I can find it.
Yeah. So Joseph, I'll interrupt you
Yes.
again just one more
Okay,
time
sure.
before I'll leave you for some time. So the first is my own question that the travel deals you found, was that just normal chat GPT or you created an agent?
And I use the agent for it because I want the agent to tell me the metro line that I had to use, the tickets and stuff like that. So he gave me the whole thing.
Okay, great. And the person from before said thanks for the answer, but I do have a follow-up.
Okay.
Cosmos is asking, shouldn't that therefore, and this is in relation to what you just answered,
Okay.
about them learning about you. So shouldn't that therefore create a circular reference of sorts, recycling our conversations rather than giving me new, broader information? I disabled that history because I'm of the opinion that the chatbot will reconfirm its previous biases.
Yeah, this is we will talk about it maybe the next slide or so. But this is what prompt engineering come into play. In prompt engineering, you get the machine. If you put your prompt carefully, you get the machine to do exactly what you want to do. So if you decided you don't want the machine, or when I say the machine, the model, to use your prior conversation, you let him know then that I know you know me as an actuary, but I want you to do something different than what you have seen of me. Or don't even you can even point blank to say, do not use any of my memory. And sometimes when you're using the chat box, so sometimes you tell them, I'm asking this question, but please do not add this thing to my memory. Because if you do add it, you're gonna reference that later on in the future. I don't know if that answered the questions. But
We'll take that as a yes. Unless Cosmos, you want to put something in the chat, but we'll take that as a yes.
but,
So
uh,
keep going.
but okay. But we continue. So I wanted to show some of the engine behind the scene. And 5.5 is the most recent model that ChatGPT has, and those are the old one. And we know ChatGPT was the first chatbot that was released to the public, and that was released in November 2022. And the engine behind it was a GPT 3.5 family member. And the GPT itself stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So as we go a lot deeper into that, maybe we can understand what the transformer does. And again, the LLM, sometimes we mention transformer a lot, but there's other models. There is like um, diffusion model, there's other model, but the transformer is the model that people know the most. So before transformer, most of the AI model were analyzing a text word by word, one word at a time, right? So it was difficult to understand a whole paragraph, right? So a group of Google researchers came up with a white paper and titled "Attention is all you need." And with that, they decided it would be better to actually look at the paragraph as a whole and how each word in that paragraph relates to each other. And this concept, the mechanics for that was what they called attention. So this is very critical here. And the paper itself was published in 2017. So what does a transformer do? The transformer break your prompt that you gave them into token. And most of the people will tell you that a token is three quarters of a word. But in reality, it's not just that. What it does is it's trying to get either the root of the word. He removed the surfaces, the prefixes and stuff like that, punctuation and stuff, so that it can understand the word better. And the prefix and the surface become also one and token. But on average, it seems like it turned out to be three quarter of a word. So that's what people use AMQual for, especially when they do some writing and stuff. So what it does, it breaks down your paragraph into text, and then convert that into vectors, numbers vectors. So you convert them to vectors, and then that vectors, usually the vector is the one that enters the model. They do what they call the attention, the weighing contest. They find how each word relate to each other, or if you want to say how each vector relates to each other. And this is the key thing in attention. Once they are done, then from your question, they can predict the next token. So this is the full circle. You do this, you predict the next token, and then the next token goes in, they use it, they predict another one, another one, another one, another one, until you get what? A whole paragraph. And the paragraph is the one that comes out. So it all is solely based on probability. The probability that token is coming out. And the whole process itself, the model, I should say the model behind it will strain to come up with the right token. And that's the reason why you hear, the GPT itself, the pre-training is because that model was pre-trained before it was out. So let me see if I did not skip anything here. I think it's not working properly. No, I think it's a little back. Oh, no. Sorry. Let me find my way here. No. No. Let me see. No, okay. Maybe I use this one here. Okay. Sorry. Okay. We are here. Okay. All right. So where was I? So far, we have been talking about LLM in general. So if I were to go in the system and ask a question, GLM, if there's no memory, GLM would not know whether I'm an actuary or whether I'm a dog trainer, or as if I'm trying to provide you the most common information that he has, the way he was trained, that's what the model will try to give you. So there is three main and way to adapt it to the work that we do as actuaries. And those three techniques are called prompt engineering, RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, and fine tuning. Prompt engineering, we talked a little about it. You write your prompt, you ask him to do something, and then provide you the answer. This is the cheapest way. The RAG, it's more about you have your own information, so you want the model to rely a lot more on the information you provide to answer you. And fine tuning is, since the model was pre-trained, you go ahead and train the model again so that it behaves just like an actuary. and this is the most expensive one. And this one is used for like very, very specific cases. And so let's start talking about prompt engineering. And I think one person already asked the question already on prompt. You want, I mean, in common term, prompt engineering is the skill of asking the AI the right way so that it gives you the most meaningful answer to you. So the way, I don't know if there still is, but prompt engineering itself or prompt engineers was a career that people will get into because it was the machine to be able to actually get the right prompt for the machine to answer you and efficiently. And it was a skill to have. And maybe it still is a skill that people need to have. But roughly today people have a common way of being able to act with AI, and this is the common set of let me say the fashion that people think will give you the best answer. You set the role. We are actors who want to do something about actuary. You give them the context, what you want to be done. You stated the tasks that need to be done, and it's recommended that you use very, very common languages, like plain English, basically. Sometimes you can put constraint. People don't do that very often, but you could ask the chat box to verify itself before it provide you the answer. So you put all the constraints that need to be done, and you can also specify the output that needs to come out. But regardless of anything, and maybe it's good to mention that the more you work with your chatbots, and someone mentioned, it gets to know you. So even if you go and you start asking a question directly, he knows that you are an actuary, you are doing something. So sometimes he will do some of the preliminary work for you, so you don't have to do it. That's the reason why people get lazy and go put the prompt directly in and then get the answer, because some of the work has been already done for you. But the other point that I want you guys to remember here is those three concepts below here. It's token utilization, context window, and temperature control. So token utilization, the longer is your prompt, the more expensive it is. You use more energy, and so you want your prompt to be as concise and as clear as possible. And we'll talk a lot more about token, but this is the concept. You want it to be as concise and as precise. And there's also the context window. The context window, when you start with let's say ChatGPT for us. When you start with ChatGPT, you ask the first question, ChatGPT give an answer. The very first few questions you ask are the best. You will receive the best answer. The more and more you ask ChatGPT to give an answer, the context window become big. And ChatGPT start forgetting some of the stuff that you have asked before. And there is a different way some of the model will handle it. Let's say for this example that we have here, let's say that you ask you told ChatGPT that you were an actuary, and then you ask so many questions. The system will do what? When your context window become too large that you cannot take anymore, it will chop the fact that you said you were an actuary, and then he wouldn't even remember. He would just answer as if we're somebody else, if we're a scientist or whatever, because the term actually does not even figure anymore in a context, right? And then there's other model that what they do is they will summarize your prior conversation and then use that inside your context window to answer you. Both of them have their pros and cons, but maybe this is a subject for a later discussion. And the last item is what they call temperature control. Temperature control, AI has a temperature that goes from 0 to 2. When you go closer, the closer you get to 0, you are asking the chatbot or the LLM model behind the scene to come up with something that's super factual, the highest probability, meaning that every time you ask a question, is more likely to give the exact same answer, not a different one, right? Because people have noticed that when you put in ChatGPT something, it gives an answer, and then after that, it brings you a different answer every time you ask. Is because that temperature is away from 0. And the more you go closer to 2, you become more creative. So more likely to hallucinate, to come with something that is creative. It works for some people because some people want to write fictional books and stuff like that. Then being closer to 2 is an advantage. And if you want to be someone that's doing research that wants something that's more factual, you will stay as close as possible to 0. So that was prompt engineering. So the other one we talked about is a RAG. And the chart that I'm showing here on the graph here is you have your own prompt, you add in, and what I'm calling companion bolt. It's some additional knowledge, like your company knowledge. It could be policy based, it could be your table, it could be stuff like that. That you will add along with your prompt, but you will tell the LLM to rely more on your information than other information. So when the answer is coming in, it will take more of the information that's coming in from your own knowledge. And so that information is more grounded, less likely to hallucinate. And it's very, very useful, especially when it comes to HR, for example, HR policies and stuff like that. They don't want the concept to come. They don't want LLM to get that response for a Q&A to come up from outside the company. They want it to come from the policy of the company. So this is very useful. And maybe it's a good time to actually also mention a little bit about Notebook LM. If you have never used it before, please go check it out. It's good, especially for people that are taking an exam. Notebook LM is a Google model that is based on the RAG. You come in and load some source documents that you think are reliable, or for exam taker, you even include your manual for the exam manual inside. And when you ask questions to the model will only source inside the manual or inside your source document that you input in Notebook LM. And I use it a lot because when I'm doing research, and sometimes I have stuff that have 100 pages and stuff like that. A lot of documents have 100 pages. And I cannot go and read the entire document. I'll put all those documents into Notebook LM, and then I'll ask questions. The good thing about it is the fact that it creates a connection between different documents inside the model. So when you ask a question, it takes into consideration all the sources, and then give you, and you point out exactly in the text where that reference comes from. So there's no there's no hallucination at all. And the last point, the last technique that we talked about here is fine tuning. Fine tuning meaning we do additional training to the model to feed it, to make it for our cases as an actuary, to make it respond everything as if it was an actuary. So the same technique that we use to pre-train the model, you do the same thing to train that model again. But at this time now, you say, hey, when they ask you about loss ratio, you know exactly what loss ratio is. This is the exact formula for loss ratio. And do not think about something else but that. And then at this point, um, um, uh, it can think and act just like if it was an actuary. And this is the most scary part because it can do a very, very good job if you take time to train it. All right. And when it's trained properly, you can ask it to write a report as if it was an actuary. You can even ask it to and do loss ratio selection, LDF and stuff like that, as if it was it will have the same mindset as an actuary. And reinforcement learning is also a way of fine-tuning the model. The reinforcement learning, what it does is it's kind of like a reward system, right? You you ask the model a question, it comes with an answer. You score that answer, and you send the score back in the model. And then you ask another question, you count the answer, you score. So the model willing to actually improve its score will do what will adapt a lot more to your situation. And this is what reinforcement learning is. So I'm going to stop here a little bit to see if there's question, and after that we'll move into agents.
Yes. So there's I think oh no, there is a question in this. So there's a comment first and a question. It says,
Can you hear me, Yvonne?
I would use a loop function to structure. In the same way, when writing prompts, I try to structure instructions and context to guide the AI towards the desired output. Would that be considered a good analogy?
Say that one more time. Sorry, I missed the beginning.
Do you have, I think you might want to open the chat for that one because it's a long.
Because I don't want to yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean they're comparing writing prompts to coding. Like if you were using a macro to calculate the sum of a series of numbers, they'd use a loop function to structure that. So in the same way, when writing prompts, they try to structure instructions and context to guide the AI toward the desired output. So they're saying that like they put constraints on the AI the same way they put constraints in VBA code when they're writing a macro. So they're asking you if that's a good analogy to use to try and help people understand how to work with AI.
Yes. It actually we probably discuss it a little more when we come to AI. It's the same way because maybe I did not talk too much about it, but behind the scene, maybe let me go back a little bit if I have it somewhere. Okay, I have it somewhere. So behind the scene here, it's just a code that's being run, right? When you ask, if you say hello to in the chat box, right? This whole code, it's been sent to the model via API. And the code is run behind the scene and then come back to you as a test. But this is for people that use a long chain. Long chain is a programming tool. This is what they use. This is the Python written. You will write, and here, so here basically what the person is doing is it's a long chain here code. They're using ChatGPT, right? And so you open the ChatGPT thing, and you select the model that you want to be selected. So remember, we're talking about the type of LLM model that we have in the system. So you select. The reason why people do that here, they have full control on whatever you're doing. Use on the window what you do when they ask you a question. The model, the chat box select what he thinks is the best model, the best engine for you. But like I said, the token have cost. So if you use the highest model, it will cost you more to get your answer. But when you have the authority, if you think the lowest model can answer your question, you pick that one because it cost you less. And when you're doing that in the programming, you have that selection. You can put all the, so it's the same thing in VBA, all the boundaries that you put for your software and stuff like that is the exact same thing that's happening behind the scene. But nowadays we don't need to actually do what see what is going on behind the scene, because people think it's overrated. Why would you learn it when the machine can do for you? So
Okay.
let's continue here. I'm gonna get back to my position.
Okay, well, we'll come back. There was a question on that, but I'm conscious of time and letting you
Yep.
go through.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there is going to be there's a specific question in the chat we might come back to, and then someone's also asked about hallucinations, but I've seen that in your slides. So let's see if they still have the question after you go through that.
Okay, so we can talk a lot more in detail after that. So anyway, so we talked about LLM. So everything that you know about LLM is the same thing that you use for what? For agent. And remember the picture that we gave initially was the picture of the butler. The butler need that recent graduate, because the recent graduate is the one that have the engine, is the one that have the knowledge that you need to be to do your operation. So now let's talk a little more and then about the agentic AI. So and that question came in a little early on. So yes, traditional AI chatbots, before it used to answer questions, before it became a lot more sophisticated with the way we, but it used to answer questions. But agentic AI takes action. The plane that you provide to agentic AI, it takes those actions. It asks questions to the LLM model. The LLM will provide response. He thinks about the response that you provide, the LLM model provided, and make decision on your behalf, all the way to the end, so that the goal you assign the agent to do is completed. And this is what has made AI such a powerful engine. And I put here is in the bottom here, with AI agent, you get the power of automation. It can do so much. People have stuff running in the middle of the night. If you have heard, I mean, not everybody's on the same level, but if you have heard open claw, you understand why. You'll be somewhere at the ocean sides, and your open claw will call you on the phone to tell you something, and you give instruction from your cell phone for it to react. So this is what has made AI such an interesting topic. People now are thinking you could use AI to do pretty much everything, but I mentioned that a little bit before. The agent use tools, the memory you put in to execute multi-step tasks within your bounded autonomy. The power that you give him, he'll run with that. So if you don't build it properly, it's gonna run all over the place. The person that created Open Claw had to shut it down at some point. I mean, you can get stories online or something where people have spent tons of money because the AI will do all kind of stuff. So this is one of the things that actually reduced the fame of Open Claw. And tool execution. Every tool you provide him, you can put a box of tool there and the agent will come in and see which one is appropriate and do the work for you. And just like the LLM, when you to validate the information, agent, it becomes primordial to actually validate the information that's coming out and make sure that it's programmed properly. And so, if anything, it's easier to use LLM, but it can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing to use an agent. But you need to be super careful. And maybe with agent, a good topic that people will discuss is what I would call vibe coding, and the newer version is coming out called it vibe living, because people think it's so powerful that you could integrate coding in your life in your life. And before vibe coding, it was difficult for a commoner to build the software. We used to go buy a software, right? You have the whole software, and sometimes you need just a small piece of that software to do the work that you need, right? But you spend so much money for the software. With vibe coding, now you can even build that small piece of software that you need because you know exactly what you need. You could build that yourself without any interaction. So now software company are afraid. They are wondering if they'll be relevant a few years from now. But what vibe coding does, you describe what you want to do, and the machine, the engine, the LLM or the model that you have behind the scene, code the whole thing for you. So you don't really need to understand Python. You don't really need to understand C# or C++ or anything like that. You tell them, it will give you something. And if there's an error, you copy the error, you put it back in the system, and it fixes the error for you. If you use VS Code, perfect. Everything can happen within VS Code. And the vibe living agentic power, you could. This is where people think you could have AI do the work for you. You code it properly, you go somewhere, and it does everything for you. If you need it, you can even include your phone number for you to call you to actually get the answer that the agency is looking for. So vibe coding, and like I put in the bottom here, judgment stays with the actuary. And if there's maybe one thing that I forgot to mention. When it comes to vibe coding, there's one thing that people have experienced. You go in, you ask the machine to code something for you, good. You write, you do not understand the code, you put it in the system. If it works, fine. If it does not work and come with error, guess what you need to do? You need to copy the error, you put it in the child box, and you run it again, it corrects itself to a point where it starts working. Good. But the more you do, the more convoluted the code you have written become. So you personally do not understand anymore what the code is doing behind the scene, right? So once something breaks, now it becomes what? Super difficult to fix. Even some people, the more loop you go, the more difficult it is for AI to fix himself. So then people will start something and drop. The key thing to solve this issue is planning. Before you even go and start vibe coding, you need to take time to understand what you really want to build. Clearly, you need to put that into modular form. Me personally, I cannot come and say when I want to vibe code, I'm sure that I'm not going to finish it in one go. So I make sure that it's well written enough, and then I get a copy of it somewhere to say, hey, I'm gonna start this. If I don't get to 31, at least I have my document to go back and see where I am. And once you do that, for each step that of your coding journey, if I can call it this way, you can test it at that point to see if the code is doing exactly what you ask it to do, right? And then you move on to the next module. You do exact same thing. So you understand when something breaks, you know if it's in module 1 versus module 10. So this is one thing that I want to mention. Otherwise, bad coding works. It's good if you actually have a little bit of understanding of coding. But regardless, if you plan very well, you should be able to use it wisely. And also, when it comes to agentic AI or even LLM, we talked about token, right? The token costs a lot because every interaction you have with LLM consume computer resources. It has a footprint. And here, what the table is trying to show you here is how wild the price can go. Gemini 3 Flash is 50 cents. The Gemini 3.1 Pro is $3. GPT 5.5, it's $5 per. It actually, this is the input. The chatbot charges you differently. The message that you put in has a price. The message that comes out, this is the finished product, right? The finished product also has a cost, which is a lot more expensive than the input. So I was saying that 5.5, it's $5 per million of token, and $30 for the 5.5 Pro, right? Now this is a scenario that I did here. If you enter a prompt that is about a page long, right? You enter that prompt, and then the output is maybe a little over half a page long. This is how much you'll pay for Gemini 3 Flash. And this is how much you'll pay for GPT 5.5 Pro. Now, if you do the 100 times, this is how much you could be paying. So when your agent is interacting back and forth with the LLM, if you're not careful, depending how you program the agent, it could be using your resources, and this is real money. So in summary, what I can say here, when you're writing your agent, you need to balance that out. You need to balance accuracy and the cost. The newest model, the most intelligent model, which is the most accurate, that costs more. The newest model are slower because the number of features that we use to pre-train the model, it's a lot. So they are slower than the older version. So speed and power are something that needs to be balanced. The context length is something we talked about too. The bigger, the slower. A smaller context length will be more efficient. We mentioned about at the beginning of the conversation that you have with AI, it will give you the best answer. the more overloaded it start giving you the wrong answer. And maybe the next question that people will ask is how do you build agent? We hear so much about agents that they are pretty much not everyone is using it. How do we use agents? There are platforms that help you build agents easily, and some of the platforms are the one that I'm presenting here. Some people will know I mentioned LangChain. LangChain is program based, and N is it's graphical. You use workflows. I don't work chat is how you call it. The one you drag is drag and drop. You build the algorithm, and then it run the code for you. Olama, Visual Studio, um, all of them are tools that can help you and build an app. And they connect to right. I mean, usually sometimes when you are building an agent, you sometimes need to you need API key to connect. Let's say that I want to build something that has a website, for instance. You need to be able to have a API connection to a different application. So those will help you do those connections much easier. And just like the same way that I show what the chatbot is, let me show you the how an agent will look like. This is an agent that I wrote just yesterday to tell me, and you can read it, to tell me the weather in Nigeria each morning when I get up. And I mean, first tell me the day, tell me the weather, and give me some top story of what's going on in Lagos. And all this stuff to show that how easy it is now to do. It's all written in plain English. And furthermore, I did not even write that myself. I explained to AI what I wanted to do and asked him to write the agent for me. So it put everything for me. But the one thing, this is where the judgment comes in. I need to read it and so that I know for sure exactly what is included. So as I'm reading, if something feels a little fishy, I can do what change it and put in the word that I want to use. So this is the prompt that to use to create the agent, and this is the setup. There's also a setup to actually do, but the tool that you're using can also help you build that setup. So maybe I'll stop here a little bit, take questions about AI agents, and then we can continue on the last part of the presentation.
Okay. I mean, we haven't had any new questions since you stopped, but there was a specific question when you were showing a slide where you had LangChain code. So somebody had asked Junior, who I believe you cut from the same cloth as him. Because Junior said, what's the difference between using LangChain like this, and referring to your slide, versus calling the OpenAI API directly with openai.chat completion.create, open close parentheses. Very technical question.
So let me see if I can see that. I will lose my, but I mean, to maybe briefly to talk about it is, I don't think there's a major difference. I don't think there's a major difference because if you remember, even like when programming came, people used to write a program, right? and then the program will be translated into machine code for the machine to work on it. And the machine code user is like the bits, the ones and zeros and stuff that the electronic portion will understand. It's the same thing. You could write it here either in LangChain using codes. So when you write it in code using LangChain, you know exactly what you want. It's much clearer to the LLM model. But when you use a chatbot, for instance, there's pieces of it that you will leave for the chatbot to guess for you. I don't know if it's clear. But so let me go back quickly to the slide that the person is referring to. Yeah. Okay, this slide.
Yeah.
Even this one, it's a thin version. There's more variable that can be populated here. So, and one good example is here. Usually when you go to the chat box, you just type in your question. And then the chat box will pick this element for you. So you have no choice because they think it's better for you. They make it, the chat box is making that judgment for you. But when you use LangChain, for instance, you are free to use that. You see the message hello here? That message that you probably wrote can be broken down into some different form, but you know exactly what you want to actually. All the parameters, you can even, I did not show, I mentioned about temperature, but you don't see temperature here because I'm leaving that to the machine to do. The code, you could include in code the exact temperature that you want your answer to come from, right? So that you are not surprised that it's hallucinating, right? But when we use a chat, a lot of them are kind of dictated by the guesswork that the chat box is doing for us. I don't know, hopefully I answered that question. But if I have not answered the question, please rephrase that question in the chat box, in the question part, and then we'll discuss it a little more.
Cool. There's one more question on hallucinations, which I think you'll be moving to soon. So it says, and it's from Edmund, he says, Joseph, how do you work around ChatGPT hallucinations, especially in the actuarial space where the machine is highly likely to hallucinate on answers in cases where it can't access sources containing the answer we are looking for? And I just remember the code that you were showing us that you got an agent to write where it had in asterisks, do not make up anything. But anyway, you're free to answer that question.
I even mentioned the fact that you could, when you put that in the chat box, you could ask the chat box to verify his own work before he provide that to you before he provide the answer to you. But this is, and for when you use the agents, it's actually clear because AI can easily check another AI work, right? So on your planning for the AI agent, you ask the question to an agent and say, hey, I want you to be, like we use in the actuarial, I want you to be the technical inspector, right? Check the answer that this guy has provided and make sure that the answer is what I'm looking for if it's not hallucinating before you provide me the answer. And I'm gonna give you a quick answer to that, to another additional. So AI is being trained like human, right? So for some reason, it's picking up human-like habit. When you ask him a question, he's trying to use the most efficient way to answer it, right? So sometimes the AI takes shortcuts. You ask the AI to read a whole paragraph of a whole book of 40 pages. He'll pick the introduction, and especially if most of the time the text that you have given him, the introduction is the introduction has the most important topic, the key topic, and then the introduction and conclusion have the key point. So if you provide that to AI, so many times that every time I go to read these papers, the introduction and the conclusion have the most interesting concept. So now you're giving me, I'm going to only read what? The introduction and the conclusion and try to answer it. But the question that you're asking might not be in the two. It might be in the body of the thing. So this thing also causes hallucination. So you need to be able to ask them to check. Have you read? I mean, when you create an agent, you ask the agent, have you read the paper that I gave you? If you read, tell me the number of pages that the document has. You cannot, I mean, if you cannot tell me the number of pages, then I'm not sure you read correctly. Tell me just a few topics that were in the body that is not in the introduction or the conclusion. So this is how you allow them to catch. So this is on the agentic side, but you could even do the exact same thing on the chatbot, by the way. You could ask him to verify that answer, or you could ask him to do what? Give you reference, especially when he's picking up perplexity, is one of the things that usually when they ask a question, it brings you information that comes from either a book or a research or something like that. Perplexity was known to actually provide a lot of hallucinated stuff. So people need to go in and to tell them, hey, make sure that you're taking that from a source material. If you use a source material, show me exactly what you're doing. Do not create anything. So when it does not create anything, there's a possibility that you have less hallucination. But yes, you could report it as much as possible.
Huh? Yeah. I said that's a great explanation. Thank you. I personally have never thought about it that way, that the AI is being lazy and could just read the first and the last. But I also liked what you said about the getting a different AI to check what another one's doing. So maybe that will also help Cosmos. Cosmos should just treat a separate AI and make it skeptical. So then he should just copy the answers from one to the other, see what it says. But yeah.
Or even have a different model of battle. People use clothes. They'll take something in clothes and then bring it to ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT, verify this for me. People that don't coding, and before, because the engine, if I can call it zealous, when you ask him a question, he want to answer the question quickly for you. And remember, sometimes we see, especially when they use code, they say planning. They give you plan of action, right? People that use code a lot, they give you plan of action, and then it will execute on that plan for you when you say yes. That plan itself can be wrong. So people will do what? They add coders to say, hey, code has provided me a plan, but you charge the coders, check if the plan is okay for what I want to do before I can allow code to do his work. So you can combine them to allow you to get a better result.
Great. So just a time check, Joseph. We have just about 15 minutes left.
Okay, so let me continue
those minutes.
Quickly.
So yes, go ahead.
So we don't have that many more slides. I lost my spot here. I don't know. Okay, we are here. So it's good enough that we talked about AI, but I did not want to talk about AI without looking at the risk behind the tool. it's not just AI that has a risk. Any tool that you use out there has a risk. And then this one, I did not even ask AI to actually do that for me, to tell me on his own what are the risks that you run into by running an AI. And you could see AI knows that hallucination is the most prevalent risk. And hallucination itself is not new. I mean, when you use prior model like the GLM and stuff like that, when you are running the model, when you go to the tail of those model, since the data is thin, it cannot provide the good answer. So the variability there goes all over the place. Your prediction can be super off. So usually when you get the model, you chop the model sooner so that it doesn't give you erroneous information. But this is what hallucination does. If it doesn't have that much information, it will create, because we don't usually check our temperature. We don't know the temperature of the LLM that we are using. So maybe it can't find answer, say, let me create something for this person. I hope it works. So this is what hallucination is. And we could also see misinformation is also a major information. There's two forms of misinformation. There's AI itself giving information that is not correct accidentally. They didn't mean to give the information, but the information it's wrong, and you use it as knowledge. And there's a lawyer out there that went to use ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave him court cases, which is also, it can be considered as a hallucination too, and that was super wrong. That never happened. This is a form of misinformation. And now there's people that use the AI to spray either rumor or fake information, misleading information. I know you guys heard about deepfake, fake content that are out there. In the US for the election, they use the AI to mimic Joe Biden's voice and call people to say that don't go to the ballot box. You don't need to go vote because that's a primary. So it does happen. And there's a case in Hong Kong where the vice president, they use the vice president's voice to call the financier in Hong Kong to transfer money. But since the financier was talking to a top executive, he provided the money. The money was transferred before they found out that the voice was not. You and I, we can talk. AI will produce the exact same voice that we have. So now people are building tools to check if that voice was generated by AI or not, because it's difficult to tell if it's the person's voice or not. Another thing that I can see here is lack of transparency, the black box effect. I can remember when I was using predictive modeling, GLM was already a black box for people. If you need to file a rate, right, to a regulator, if the regulator in the group that do not have anyone that understands GLM, and you tell them that your rate came from a GLM model, they will not approve it because they do not understand what came inside the GLM model. Until later on, when they start having their own actuaries, and then they start understanding GLM better. But today, when it comes to AI, it's a whole different story. The developer that creates the model do not even understand fully how the model works, because they use many, many billions of features to build those models. So no one can fully understand what AI is. So yes, chatbots, the black box effect, it's real with AI. So if you're making decisions with AI and you don't understand those decisions, you need to be able to explain those decisions very, very well. before, if and it's similar to the concept of the GLM. When we used to use GLM, sometimes we did we ran the model, came out with factors, we produced the modeling, and then went back and used traditional rate-making technique to explain those factors that we need to file to the regulators. So when we do file those one, when a question comes, we can explain those one without using the model behind it. So those are the stuff that we need to do when we are dealing with AI. And I can see here security vulnerability. Yes, cybercrime is made easy by AI now. Anyone that don't have any programming language or that is not born a hacker can use AI to actually try to break into people's computer or do something bad online. For most of you guys that are very in tune with AI these days, Anthropic, which is the parent for codes, has come up with a model called Anthropic Mythos. And they even refuse to release that model because they think if they release that model, people can use it can misuse it for cyber. Now there's also when it comes to cyber, I don't know if you see on the graph here, but there is like prompt injection. There's prompt injection. Prompt injection is maybe I did not talk too much about it between generative AI and the agentic AI. There's many tools that are being built in between. There's what they call tools, there's what they call skills, especially for people that use CRUD, skills and stuff. And guess what is happening? Online, people are building skills for a particular thing or tool for a particular thing that you can go, especially on GitHub, which is a platform where people can share codes and stuff like that. You can go download it and bring it to your agent or your system to run it and help do the work that you want to do. But if the person that wrote that has malicious intent, they can put inside the prompt something, especially if you have not read it, they can put something that can remove information from your computer and then send it to them. This is what is called I'm calling prompt injection. And bias, I missed bias. Bias here is big too. Bias, especially for people like us that work in Africa. Africa, there's lack of data. A lot of the stuff I will do here, we do not have data for it. A lot of them have not shifted from hard copies to digital. So when they were doing the pre-train, guess what did happen? A lot of information did not come from Africa. So you enter your prompt inside the chat box, and you have answer. But you need to make sure that the answer match the African context, because that information you get might be biased. It might be something that you have never seen. If you take that and go show that your boss part tells you that you are crazy, to say the least. So yes, this is something. Another thing that maybe is not so big here, but it over reliance. The more you rely on AI, the more difficult it is to do stuff on your own. And there's something called skill atrophy, meaning that from now on to the future, I don't know when, we will start being dumber and dumber and dumber until maybe AI takes over. I'm just joking, but this is something real. And it did happen already for mental calculation, right? Before the calculator came up, a lot of people doing calculation mentally. You have somebody say 25 times 5, they do their best to get you the answer by using the heads. Today, ask the same question, no one's willing to do it. Why would you do it when you can use the calculator? the calculator is readily available everywhere. So this is what we're going to move to when people think they should keep their brain to do something that is basically enjoyment than trying to memorize stuff that comes from the book. If you need that from the book, you go to ChatGPT or something direct to get that answer. Another thing that may be big for the company, for instance, it's what I was trying to point out here is data leakage. You work for the company, and maybe I'll speed up a little more because I just checked the time. It's data leakage. You put your company information in, and guess what happened? You put the information that it's supposed to be confidential information out there in the public, which is dangerous. So I'll stop here. The charge is there. There's many information there that privacy violation, drift, everything that you could probably see, and there are real risks that people need to consider. But before we go, I want to actually point out, I want to check this one out, is those are few simple tools that you could use to actually help you when you're dealing with AI, right? If the job that you're doing is it appropriate to AI? Yes, no, before you get into using AI, before you start thinking into AI, think about that. The data that you want to put in the AI, is it permitted? Is it something that it's not? I mean, sometimes we also think everything is confidential. Not many things is confidential. Information that your company has released in the annual report, it's not confidential anymore because it's out there on the internet. But there's information, strategic information that confidential that does not need to be there. And the output that you get from chatbots, yes, validate the output. Make sure that it's what you wanted. Is that intended? And also now, I'm taking a course with MIT. They'll force you to actually disclose whether you have used AI to edit your material. You need to let them know if you did that. So this is where I'll stop. And I want to say something, maybe the last thing. Do not outsource your actual judgment. So when knowledge becomes cheaper, judgment is the most valuable. So keep that judgment so that you can succeed with AI. So thank you very much, and this is all I have to say.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph. That was really great and insightful. I like that you ended by talking about not outsourcing your actuarial judgment. There was a comment in the chat from Salome saying she's worried about the future of critical thinking with increased use of AI. But I think your last comment also, I think is very important. Definitely a valid concern, but the last, especially as actuaries, that last point is very important. I might just there was one more question in the chat, and I think it points more to the risks with what people are with people using AI. So it talks about, this is outside of actuarial work, which is true. But what about the growing use of AI for therapy and emotional support? So I'm guessing, like people going to AI to tell them their problems and then see, like it likes to reassure you, right? So is there anything is there an actuarial angle? But also could actuaries play a role in educating the general public about the risks and limitations? But I think even for us sitting here, I think it's important to just remind people about those risks. I don't know if you have something to say in 30 seconds, just before I give my announcement.
Yes, I mean, the bottom line is AI is, as of now, AI is a tool. Don't see that any more than the tool. It helps you accomplish something. There's I don't remember, I don't know if it's Alexa. There is like the very, very first, because one of my teachers at MIT here was part of the people that built the first tool to interact with people. And he said, as soon as the door closed, the PA was trying to use it, and it wasn't based on AI. It was just based on question that you more likely ask your I'm calling it therapist will be more likely to ask you. The question was so good that she was thinking she was dealing with an intelligent item. This is way before, I'm talking about 1956, around that time. That she was thinking that she was dealing with an intelligent thing. No, we are not, so far, it's not fully intelligent yet. It's the pattern recognition. Is recognizing pattern is easy to do that. Maybe at some point we'll be shifting from and that pattern recognition to a true intelligent item. But to this point, we are just using the tool and let's keep it at that.
Okay, great, wonderful. Thanks, Joseph. So I'm just going to and thank you so much. This has been really insightful. I'm just going to just end with a quick some quick announcements from the AADA side. We have a few things coming up, and also a request for volunteers. So stick around just to hear this. So first, we do have some sessions coming up where we're teaching people about the pathway, so please spread the word. So the first session that we have is on Thursday, the 4th of June, and we're talking about the SOA pathway. We've got a few actuaries from across Africa and also from across, they're all at different stages of their exam pathway. They're going to talk about their experiences, and there's also going to be someone from the SOA that's going to tell you about the pathway. So please, you can sign up there with the QR code or use the tiny URL SOA pathways. And please spread the word for those that are interested. The next one is we're also going to have a session on the Casualty Actuarial Society University International University Recognition Program. So this is a program that will help universities, first of all, upgrade some of their learning, give professors access to some teaching materials, and also helps them to teach non-life insurance or P&C insurance within their syllabi. So again, please spread the word. We have Samuel Annan, who's the chair of the Africa Task Force for the CAS, and Katie Mulembe, who's one of the CAS staff, who are going to tell us about that and also take people through a step-by-step how they can apply. It's actually very easy. So please pass that along. People can use a tiny URL, CAS University, or they can scan the barcode. Also with the CAS, we're going to have an AADA mentor-led, or a few actually, not just one, a few AADA mentor-led cohorts for the CAS P&C Actuarial Essentials program. So this is a program that gives people access to some tools. It's aimed at new people in university and also people who've just started work. So you learn some non-life actuarial concepts. It teaches you about some tools that you can use. And then we're taking it a step further by having it mentor-led so you can have some sessions with some mentors. So the CAS is sponsoring that for us. The program does actually exist. You can look it up at kazakh.org/actuarial essentials to see what's about, but it is a paid-for program. But through AADA, we will be sponsoring that. It's going to be free and you'll get mentors. So watch out for that. Also spread the news so that people can join. But alongside that, we will need the mentors as well. So AADA is growing. We have a lot of things going on and coming up. So we need mentors for various opportunities. So please do sign up. You can see the QR code there that takes you to a form that gives you a description of all the positions that are open and also a form to fill in to sign up. We have opportunities in social media. Our LinkedIn page is where we advertise most of our stuff. So if you're so inclined in that direction, please sign up. We have mentorship coordinators to coordinate our actual mentorship program. We're looking for people to coordinate our webinars and learning sessions, so such as this one. If you're someone with lots of ideas of things people can learn and you want to get people in touch with get in touch with speakers and stuff like that. We would love to have you. And then we're also just looking for mentors. So mentors for our individual mentorship program. Joseph is one of our mentors. He mentored three students last time. Was it three?
Yes, yes.
Yes, three. So hopefully you'll say it was a very valuable experience. And
Yeah,
mentors learn a lot as well, but we really do need mentors, and you'd be surprised how much of an impact you can make in the life of somebody who is trying to get into the actual profession or who's just starting out. You'll be surprised how much need there is just to be able to speak to someone that has more experience than they have. Despite the fact you might not think you have so much to give, but there's so much need. So we'd love to have mentors at all levels, because if you're just starting, we might pair you with a student, for example. And then, of course, the CAS P&C Actuarial Essentials course, we will give preference to CAS Actuaries for that one. So please scan the QR code, sign up. We would love, 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 love to have you. And lastly, just a few other upcoming events. A fireside chat is coming up on the 11th of June with Alex Aqueriburu on going beyond traditional actuarial roles. This is going to be really interesting. Alex started off, I think he was a capital actuary. Now he owns a brokerage and is creating a clinic, a health clinic. So this will be really, really interesting. Watch out for that when registration opens. It will be on our LinkedIn page. We're also going to be talking about the CAS pathway, same as we've done the SOA pathway. That will be on the 7th of July. We're gearing up with the IFOA to talk about their university accreditation. That will be on the 13th of August. And of course, as of us for mentors, we're looking forward to having our summer 2026 edition of our individual mentorship program, which we call Pathways to Success. So follow us on LinkedIn to hear updates on that. And just keep in touch. You can contact us on various channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, email. But with that, I'll just say thank you, everybody. And thank you so much, Joseph. This has been excellent. And we hope to see you soon. Take care, everyone, and bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.